Hi, Sevens. So today we are going to learn about dividing decimals. Um, and this document, I've got three examples of three different scenarios that includes dividing with decimals and how you need to attempt them. So please listen carefully and do it as I go, because this can be complicated if you kind of overthink it. But if you follow these really easy steps, you guys will be fine. So this is the Year 8 book 4.6. If I just go here. So it's 4.6 is multiplication and division. So we've done multiplication, now it's the division part. Okay, so let's say you got an example like this. So as you see in this document, the purple writing is the different scenarios you get. So there's three different scenarios, and the black writing is showing you the steps that you need to do. Okay, so if we look at the first one, so this is when you come across a question that is a decimal and a whole number. So in this case, it's 3.84 divided by 4. So you don't have to do long division, short division is totally fine. So you divide the numbers normally. So I will just write it like this, 3.84. Place the decimal in the same place. So what that means is, I'm just going to get my drawing thing. So this decimal, I'm going to put it in the same place. And what you do is you just divide normally. So 4 into 3 is 0. Then you leave the decimal as it is. Then you go 4 into 38. That's 9, remainder 2. And 4 into 24 is 6. So the answer is 0.96. So that's one of the easiest scenarios where one of them is a whole number and the other one is a decimal. You divide them normally, the decimal remains in the same spot. So that is the first scenario. The second scenario is a decimal, when you're dividing a decimal and a whole number that ends with zeros. So in this case, it's 4.8 divided by 40. So what you do is ignore the 0, so that 0 in the 40, ignore it, and you divide it by normally. You divide it normally. So I'm going to ignore this 0 here. So I'm going to divide it like this. And we know, looking at the first example, you put the decimal in that same spot. 4 into 1 is 1. Sorry, 4 into 4 is 1. 4 into 8 is 2. That's 1.2. That's the first step. Then what you do is you count how many zeros there are. So we counted there were 1 0. Move the decimal that many times to the left. So 40 has 1 0. Move the decimal one time to the left. If it was 400 where it had 2 zeros, then you move it twice to the left. So you've got 1.2. So because it's 1 0, I'm going to move it once to the left, which means my answer will be 0.12. Please make sure you put a 0 at the front as well. So it's 0.12. So that's what you do when, sorry about that. That's what you do when you're dividing numbers with zeros. So a decimal and a number with zeros. So for example, if you had 3 zeros, that means you just look at the first number, divide it like normally, and you move the decimal place according to how many zeros there are. That is that one. So this one is when you're dividing a decimal and a decimal. So when you're dividing two decimals, it is important to make, if you've noticed before, that one of the other numbers was a whole number. So we need to make one of these numbers a whole number. So make one number a whole number, moving it to the right. So I'm going to pick 0.4. And I'm going to move the decimal this way once. So I'm going to keep that moved decimal one spot to the right, making it a 4. So remember, any whole number, if it's 12, the decimal, any whole number has a decimal on the right. It's just not there. You don't have to show it. So this 4 can be written as 4.0 or just 4. All right, so now we've got a whole number, but we know that we've moved it once to the right. Then what you do is, because you've moved that decimal once to the right on one number, you have to do the same for the second. So move the decimal the same number of spots in the other number. So we've got 4.864, and I'm going to move it once as well. So whatever you do to the first number to make it a whole number, you have to do it to the other one as well. So this will now become 48.64. Move decimal one spot to the right also. So now these are the two numbers that I'm going to divide with. So now you just divide, like what we did in the first couple of questions, you just divide normally. So 4 divided by 48.64. 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 8 is 2. Remember the decimal remains the same. 4 into 6 is 1, 24, 6. So the answer is 12.16. So that's it. So when you guys do the Jack Plus questions now, please make sure you have this with you by your side and look at the question and be like, okay, do I use, which rule do I use? 1, 2, or 3? Are they both decimals? What do I need to do? For this one, I can obviously move this one. I can make that a whole number as well. But it's just easier for me to move the decimal once. You want to move the decimal the lowest number of times. So this one, if I were to make this a whole number, for me to make it a whole number, it would be 4864. That means I would have to move the decimal 3 times. While this one, I'll have to move it just once. So it's better to move it the least amount of times. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And you guys will be doing the Jack Plus questions, on exercise 4.6 in the Year 8 textbook. All right, thanks guys.